สวัสดีค่ะ Welcome to Hot Thai Kitchen. Today's episode is a special one because it is sponsored by Campbell's, and they gave me a challenge to come up with a recipe that uses their new mushroom broth right here, which is super yummy. Now, what I love about Campbell's broths is that they're made with all natural flavors, and this one is vegetarian. So I came up with a vegetarian mushroom wonton soup that I must say I fed it to my very carnivorous cousin, and he didn't even know it was vegetarian, and he loved it. So this will be a pleaser for everyone. Let's get started. All right, let's make the filling first. The type of mushroom that I've decided to use for the filling is dried shiitake mushrooms. So these are shiitake mushrooms the way they come dry. And what I've done is I've just soaked these in hot water for at least an hour. The big ones like this, they really do need that time. I usually do it the day in advance. So shiitake mushrooms are used in the broth itself, so the flavors are gonna work together nicely. So I wanna cut these really small. And I'm cutting around the stem because the stem is quite tough and I don't want to use that. So once I've got these down to tiny little cubes, I want to just run my knife through it again in sort of a mincing motion because you want to make sure the wonton filling is quite fine, otherwise you'll have a hard time wrapping these. And I chose dried shiitake mushrooms instead of fresh because once these mushrooms are dry, they develop a really nice earthy flavor that doesn't exist in the fresh ones. So in my wok here, I'm just gonna add a little bit of oil, vegetable oil. I'm gonna start out by sauteing my aromatics, which in this case is garlic and ginger. Finely minced. Again, everything for wonton filling should be finely minced. The combination of garlic and ginger being sauteed together smells amazing. So once I see the tiny little bits start to get brown, I'm gonna add my cabbage. So I've got green cabbage that I've finely chopped here, and also some grated carrots. And now I wanna cook this down until the cabbage is wilted and soft, okay? Which will take a while, so you wanna do this first. And I'm gonna add some seasoning with a little soy sauce, not all of it, just half of it for now. Just to season the cabbage and the carrots. And if it gets a little dry and you're not quite there yet, just add a splash of water and it'll help the cabbage steam and wilt it a little faster. So once the cabbage is tender and you want to give it a little taste, you don't want any crunchy bits, I'm gonna now add my mushrooms. Ooh. And now the rest of my seasoning goes in. So the remaining soy sauce, and I am using Thai mushroom soy sauce because hey, we're doing mushroom party today. And I'm gonna add a little bit of sugar just to balance out the salt and a little toasted sesame oil for that wonderful toasty nutty aroma. And now I wanna let the mushrooms cook for just a minute or two. Again, if it feels dry, you can add a little water. And I'm gonna finish it off with some green onions, lots of green onions. If you've got garlic chives, that'll work really well too. But when I buy garlic chive, it comes in this massive bundle. And I can never use it all. Because this filling, as you can see, is it's not sticking together. So we need to give it a little help so that the filling will hold together when we wrap the wonton. So what I'm gonna do is make a cornstarch slurry. So I've got here some cornstarch. I'm just gonna put some water in it and dissolve it. You never wanna add dry cornstarch to your dish because it will get clumpy. Now I'm gonna just pour this all in, and I'm gonna turn my heat back on because you wanna cook off that raw cornstarch flavor. And then you'll notice the filling becoming stickier. Ooh, almost forgot, white pepper. I wanna add some white pepper, a little subtle warmth, heat in the back of your throat. I love that. You can do black pepper if you'd like. And if you find you need a little more cornstarch to help it stick, don't be afraid to add a little more. You definitely want to just look to see where things are at and adjust as needed. So perfect. I'm going to turn this off. See how it's starting to hold together now into one lump. That's what you want. All right, wonton wrapping time. So I am using egg wonton wrappers. If you want to make this vegan, just look for wonton wrappers that doesn't contain any eggs, all right? You can wrap these however you want, and I've got a video that shows you 5 different ways to wrap wontons, but because this is a vegetarian filling, it's quite light, so I want to put more of it than when I make a meat filling. And when I want to make a chubby wonton, I go with the chubby pyramid wrapping method, and that is use some water to wet the edges, and that'll be your glue. Then gather all the corners, and I'm going to seal the edges, okay? Now, before I seal my last edge, I want to make sure I press out as much air as I can, because if there's too much air, when we boil these, the air will expand, and if there's too much air, these can blow up, okay? So you want to make sure you don't create a hot air balloon out of these wontons. And that's it! That's my chubby pyramid! Look how cute that is! All right, the broth. Now I'm just gonna bring this broth to a simmer. Ooh, look how rich and dark that color is. This broth has a great flavor base already, so I'm just gonna tweak it with some seasoning. So I've got some Thai mushroom soy sauce, just to, you know, stick with the mushroom theme here. Regular soy sauce will work just fine. And for a little heat, I'm gonna add some ground white pepper, and I like the commercially ground stuff for this because it's so fine that it'll mix really well into the broth. Now, while that's coming to a simmer, let's talk vegetables. Now, I am using baby bok choy and napa cabbage, which I love in soups, and I'm adding fresh shiitake mushrooms. Now, fresh shiitake, they're quite different from the dried ones we used in the filling. These are really mild flavor, and they have super tender texture that absorbs broth really well. All right, it's nice and simmering. Ooh, it smells really good in here. I'm gonna add my vegetables. And both of these take no time to cook. The shiitake mushrooms are so tender. So I'm just gonna bring it back to a boil, and that's it. And if you don't live in Canada and you can't find Campbell's broth where you live, what you can do is use low sodium vegetable broth and then simmer some dried mushrooms in it. And I'll include the specific instructions in the written recipe, but there's a way. All right, so I've got some water here, unsalted, that's boiling. I'm gonna turn it down just a little bit because I don't actually want a vigorous boil. I find that it becomes a little too aggressive and sometimes these will fall apart more easily. So with gentle bubbling for about 2 minutes, that's all it takes. So the filling's already cooked, you're just heating everything through and cooking the wrapper. All right, and that is it. They are ready to come out. And these make really good appetizers too if you're doing a multi-course meal. Just gonna ladle this hot broth over my wontons. Ooh, that looks so good. Because I'm Thai, whenever Thai people eat wonton soup or any kind of noodle soup, we always have fried garlic. So this is chopped garlic that I fried on low heat until they're crispy and golden. I've used this many times in my videos. And of course, this is garlic oil, the same oil that I use to fry the garlic. Super garlicky goodness. Really useful to have on hand. Nice. A little touch of green onions. Perfect. All right, can't wait. It looks big, but it's one bite. Oh, so good. It's so soothing and comforting and warming. When you bite into the wontons, the little pieces of mushrooms and cabbage and carrots just sort of like run free in your mouth. It's a really fun texture. This broth has quite a deep and rich flavor, which is nice because most vegetarian broths out there tend to be quite light. And with that white pepper that I added, there's a subtle heat as it goes down. And this broth has flavors of red wine, thyme, and bay leaves. And even though those are not Asian flavors, they work surprisingly well in an Asian dish. It's super delicious. So I hope you give this a try. The recipe, as always, will be on hotthaikitchen.com. And if you want to know other ways you can use this mushroom broth for, check out cookwithcampbells.ca. And when you make this, send me a photo on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. And I will see you next time for your next delicious Thai meal. So once I've got it down to small dices.
No.
Dice. So once, just dice?
Cubes?
Dices. No?
No. Dices is not a noun.